Chapter 2. Gift. Deep purple fingers tipped the last handful of berries into Valyn's mouth, their colorful juice sticky and displeasing. She wiped it off on her pants, leaving a stain she did not care to notice. Her stomach still twisted in hunger, which added to her already foul mood, and the late morning heat beat down on her shoulders as she stepped into the woods. A sheath of arrows rattled quietly on her back, her bow gripped in one hand, sweat rinsing off the residue of the last of her food. She was loath to admit it, but her reason for staying inside for 3 days was fear. Though her feet made minimal sound, her thoughts felt loud as thunder. She had no food left, spent days reading the same few books she possessed, and watching sunrises and sunsets, anxiously waiting for what she could not anticipate. She was afraid of the elven girl. Asta, with hair of deep navy blue, like an ocean from one of Valyn's childhood stories, eyes pale like a cloudy sky, and a personality so bright it burns. She would bring nothing but pain upon her life, and she had let the mere thought of the girl trap her inside the cottage for days. Asta did not strike her as the type to keep quiet, and so their meeting had been the worst possible occurrence. The townspeople would come, and Valyn knew their blood would spill. The whispers said so, and so it would be. As Valyn kept to the shaded areas of the forest, she let the feeling of the breeze on her face and the plush grass beneath her steps drive out her unease. Food was first and foremost, and she needed to focus. Her mind cleared, and as contentment just began settling in, she caught a trail. Deer tracks were pressed into soft dirt, fresh and hopeful. A good dinner would be in order. She followed the trail, keeping light and quiet, and passing up birds she saw on the way for fear the deer would wander too far. Valyn wanted the deer, and so she would have it. A twig snapped, and Valyn dipped behind thick bushes just as the deer felt her presence. She could see it through the leaves, its head poised in her direction, and its movement halted. They both held their breath. Slowly, she drew an arrow from her quiver and hoped that the sounds of the forest would hide any she might make. She nocked the arrow, preparing to stand and take her shot. In the single moment it took before she stood, Valyn's muscles froze her in place. She watched a flash of ocean waves and the night sky blowing in the air like silk. She was so entranced she did not register what the color was attached to. The deer trained its eyes on the newcomer, and its apprehension from before vanished. A pretty pale hand reached out and stroked its nose, cooing and whispering as sweet as birdsong. Valyn could not breathe, and it was becoming a problem as her chest began to burn. Valyn's foot shifted, but it was enough. She had nudged a rock with her boot, rustling leaves on the ground, and the deer immediately turned to run. Asta's eyes snapped over to where Valyn had been hiding, but she would not let her prey go. She stood up in a flash, pulling back her arrow and shooting. The arrow hit its target, and the deer fell to the ground. They faced each other for what felt like years, Valyn in fear, Asta in what seemed like confusion. Finally, Asta turned her head to the fallen animal, and for a moment, Valyn felt a different kind of fear. She could not place it, not until Asta's face turned back, her mouth turned in a sad smile. "A shame," she murmured, but shook her head as if she hadn't meant to say it aloud. Valyn felt anger boil in her blood. Who was she to criticize her for hunting? She needed to eat, and a deer would last her a long time. Why was Asta's sadness filling her with guilt? She did not care what this elven girl thought, and was about to tell her so until Asta spoke up. "Pay my feelings no mind, my lady. My troop says I am sensitive, and I admit they are right. You must live, and sometimes deer must die." That was the way of things, and Valyn realized then that Asta was a fool. All at once, Asta's sad expression shifted to one of joy, and it gave Valyn whiplash as the woman walked over to her, digging around in her bag until her hands surfaced, outstretched to her. "For you," she said. "I was hoping to see you again, and so I have kept it safe until our reunion." A rectangle wrapped in cloth sat in her hands, and Valyn became perplexed. Without thinking, she grabbed the item and unwrapped it, finding a perfectly new bar of soap. As if reading her mind, Asta said, "I noticed at the lake you were running low. Please take it. My gift to you." A gift? How long had it been since she had gotten one? Not since she was a young child, but even then, she could not place a memory. It was unnerving, but she admitted it was far easier than sneaking into town to steal one, or trying to find a willing trader. Without a word, Valyn shoved the soap in her pocket and made her way to the deer lying on the ground. Asta followed after her, watching in awe as Valyn hoisted the deer onto her shoulders, gripping 2 feet with each hand. It was a doe, far smaller than the others she had shot down before, but with her mind in tatters and the hot sun above, any more weight would prove difficult. "Lady Valyn!" Asta beamed, still following even though Valyn was trying to walk away as fast as she could manage. "You are so strong to be carrying that. May I help? I will take whatever you need of me." Valyn could feel her head begin to ache. "Go back to your home." "They are not expecting me for some time," Asta responded, as carefree as a sea breeze. "Then go anywhere else." As the last word left her mouth, Valyn's stomach growled loudly, and Asta suppressed a grin. She heard the girl rifle around in her pack again, the sound and smell of fruit being cut making Valyn's mouth water. A slice of green pear suddenly appeared in front of her mouth, Asta's delicate hand offering it to her. "You have your hands full. Allow me to help." Valyn halted her steps, staring at the fruit in abject horror. What was happening? How had she been so unlucky as to pick up some stray elven girl? Why did she offer so much for nothing in return? Her anger had been at a simmer, but now it was full boil, steam practically coming up from her throat as she spoke. "Why do you persist? Must you worm your way into my sight just to offer me soap and fruit? To what end?" Asta somehow did not seem shocked, nor offended in any way. She held the same sad smile as when Valyn had shot the deer, and it only made her temper rise. "I have no purpose, my lady. Not one that you would seem to understand, at least." "I am no idiot," Valyn hissed. No, of course not. I just meant that if I told you, your belief may not follow." Asta was speaking in riddles, and Valyn could bear it no more. She began to walk again, picking up her pace and not even glancing in Asta's direction. The girl was still following, but she said no more until they reached Valyn's cottage. The cottage! In her anger, she had led her right to her home, now on full display for the one who would surely bring her ruin. Asta seemed to know the woods well, and she would most certainly memorize this place and be able to find her way back. Perhaps she was an idiot after all. The body of the deer dropped to the ground as Valyn let it slide off her shoulders, and she felt a sticky substance that had soaked through her shirt. Blood was bright upon her cream-colored clothing, the liquid covering one of her shoulders completely and dripping down her arm. Valyn did not care, but of course, Asta did. "Oh, what a mess!" she exclaimed. "Do you need any help?" "Enough!" Valyn spat as she turned to face Asta, staring her down. Valyn was several inches taller, stronger, and far more dangerous than this girl even knew. As she spoke, she felt very far away somehow, like her voice was miles from where they stood. "I need no help. I need no company. I need no babbling girl to turn my brain to mush." That sad smile, those blue eyes, and the sweetness of Asta's voice were like a brand, burning and melting Valyn's skin. It hurt so bad to see, to hear. "Perhaps," she replied, her voice meek, nearly faltering. "Perhaps people do not know what they need at times. You needed the soap, and so I gave it. You needed food, so I offered it. You needed company, badly, and so here I am. I can see that you do not want these things from me, but you do not know me well enough to know that I give because it is what I need." A silence grew between them as Valyn said nothing, her cold stare like stones, fists clenched at her sides. She would stand her ground, would not argue, would not give the satisfaction of her words. It did not matter. She would pack up and leave for a new forest in a few days' time. Now that this woman knew her name, knew her home, it was no longer safe. Asta could smile at her all she wanted. Asta broke the silence, gripping the straps of her bag tightly. I will go. I do hope our paths cross again, Lady Valyn. It seems fate has been making sure of it, anyhow. She gave no response. Valyn merely turned on her heel, marched into her home, and shut the door behind her. The woman waited a while before steeling herself, wondering if Asta had camped out there to wait. When she opened the door, there was no sign of the elf, but lying there on a bed of bright green leaves right outside her door were two things. One was the pear, neatly cut. The other was a small bouquet of wildflowers, varying in colors of white, yellow, and orange. They were tied together by a ribbon, a deep blue that matched the color of Asta's hair. Valyn hadn't really noticed, but realized then that it was from her hair. The ribbons had been holding small braids in place, and now one was at her doorstep. She glanced around again, wondering if Asta would pop out of the woods and catch her the moment she picked something up. No sound out of the ordinary surfaced, even as her fingers scooped up the fruit. She ate a slice. It was all she could do not to sigh in pleasure. It was a treat, for they did not grow in the forest. She could not remember the last time she had even seen one, let alone eaten one of the green fruits. In just a few moments, it was gone, and Valyn threw the leaves on the ground. The flowers were still there, the ribbon gleaming in the sunlight. Valyn left them there, a decision not yet made in her mind. She spent the rest of her day cleaning the deer and cooking its flesh so it would not spoil in the heat, and while the sun set and the flowers remained at her door. After a satisfying dinner of venison, her decision was made, though it felt like someone else had made it for her. She took the bouquet from the ground, filled a cup with water, and set the flowers in their makeshift vase upon her small wooden dining table. The fireplace cast a warm glow onto them, and they seemed almost as if in a dream. Valyn let herself think that. It was a dream, nothing more. In the morning, she would begin preparing for her leave. She needed to be fast, before Asta had the courage to come find her again. But, just for the night, Valyn let herself forget. While she slept, she dreamt of pear trees and ocean water, of deer bounding over valleys, of their legs breaking and their bodies lifeless. Blood-soaked wildflowers wilted in her hands. The last thing she remembered in her fitful sleep was a pair of lips, soft and rosy, forming a pitying smile.